All right, buddy. It is Deathpiles and Taxes time. We got a special episode today. I know you've got some wisdom, some stories. We haven't got derailed for a while.
A very special episode.
How you been doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'd like to say, first and foremost, between the shows, I've done a little research at them. They do celebrate Halloween in Britain.
Oh.
So that can be laid to rest.
Okay.
They have some different traditions than we have over here. It seems like it's more of a kid's thing like it used to be here back like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They haven't evolved to what we celebrate necessarily, but just so everyone can calm down. I've seen the emails. I've seen the tweets. You guys celebrate Halloween.
They have it there, so.
Well, I kind of want to get a little philosophical, Adam. Can I get a little deep with you?
You can always get deep with me, buddy.
It's that time of year where people kind of reflect on things. It's a new year. People are going to set goals. We're kind of getting that stage of the game. I want to talk a little bit about time. Time is a weird thing.
It's the most valuable asset in the world.
If you think about it, we spend a lot of it. Some of it's wasted, some of it's not. When I get up in the morning, I wake up at 4 a.m. I've said that a few times throughout the few episodes here recently. And I get doing my thing. I get to work. 10-hour shifts, all that kind of thing. And I know I'm not alone on that. I'm not trying to say, woe's me. Some people work graveyard shifts. But it's kind of weird that time of the morning is there's not a whole lot going on. Not a whole lot of people out there. It's dark. It's cold right now.
Reflection time.
But this morning, we're going to do some podcasts. And I wake up and get over here by 8. And, I wake up a few hours later, but still early for some. And for me, my body's like, it's just weird how, 4 days out of the week I can wake up that early. But a couple hours later, it kind of just, it feels weird. I'm still kind of a little tired. I have to get my bearings. I have to still go through the motions and figure out what I'm doing. Same thing when we're out, like, reselling and sourcing and listing things. You can go out to a yard sale. You can go out in the morning. You wake up at 6 in the morning. It's a hot summer, morning. You go get your dew or whatever you're drinking, and you're off on your yard sales, and it's noon before you know it. You've bought stuff. You're wheeling and dealing. You're finding stuff. You're driving around. Maybe you hit a thrift store while you're there. The next day you go to list things. Same time. You wake up at the same time. You sit down to list things, and you're an hour into it, and you're done. You're over it. You can't do it. It's going so slow. Things aren't loading up like you want them to. You're trying to find prices. It's just not as fun, and the time goes by very slow. I think that's the same thing in life, Sometimes the younger you are, it seems like Christmas is never going to get here, or your birthday, or whatever, you're going to Disneyland or whatever. As an adult, you blink and it's another year's went by, and you can't believe where we're at, and all the stuff that you didn't accomplish this year you haven't done, that kind of thing. I just want to step back and just what's the deal with time, Adam? It's a very weird thing.
If you don't recognize it, it passes quickly. I'm glad you said that because it is that time. I need to work on my 2023. Can you step back? I know we sound like the old guys, but when you say 2023, I'm still waiting on my flying car. That's it's not here yet.
I remember not a whole lot. Like I moved in the 4th grade. Well, it was the end of the third grade year to 4th grade year.
Move in.
I moved from a small town in central Utah to another small town in central Utah, about 40 minutes apart. I remember the Scholastic News. You remember Scholastic News?
Oh, of course. That's all
they used to give us in elementary school, and this would have been, I don't know, I could read, so, maybe like 10th grade, I don't know. It was, I was
4th, 5th grade.
Yeah, I was probably a little younger than that, because I remember I was in Ephraim at the time. They handed out these they were like flyers, for lack of a better term, but they had little stories and stuff in them.
Yeah.
And they had this concept of an electric flying car that, they had like 2 people playing chess in the middle. And it was like this, looked like a UFO, kind of had this bubble thing. And this was going to happen by the year 2000. I remember reading the article, and I was just like, I can't believe it. I'm not even going to really have to learn how to drive, because by the time I graduate high school, it's just going to fly us around. And here we are, 23 years past that date. I remember at some point, that must have left somewhat of an impression in me, because I remember thinking, man, they were off on that. Boy, they were wrong on that. And I don't remember who the scientist or what the study or whatever it was in Scholastic News of the 80s. Jimmy could probably find it online somewhere if anyone could. But here we sit, and it's like, 23 years after the year 2000. And, yeah, things have changed and evolved somewhat, but the more that changes, the more everything stays the same, kind of. It's you always have this thing in your mind of like, when I graduate high school, or when I get back from this, or when I go to college, or whatever, my life's going to go from here to here.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's small steps to get people places. It's never this big, unless you win the lottery or something like that. You're not going to go overnight millionaire.
Don't get me started.
I mean, it's just there's a few times in life where an opportunity and things come, and you got a decision that's going to change your life one way or another, pretty drastically. But for the most part, it's just small little increments, small little steps that get you to where you end up. And you can look back and say, I didn't even know I was on this road, and here I am. I mean, I'm a professional driver and work in a warehouse. Back, in the early 2000s, that was never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
I was on a whole different career path. Our friend Pelican called me up one day and said, hey, I got this job. He was working for a temp service.
He was, I remember.
And he was like, hey, I got this job. They're going to pay you to drive around to all these small towns and deliver stuff. You want this job? I think it'd be cool. I said, yeah, that sounds like fun. Sounds a lot better than calling people on the phone or whatever I was doing, bugging them at the time. and from that decision, now, almost 20 years later, I've made a pretty good career out of it. I found what I'm good at. I've been able to keep jobs for the most part, or bounce around doing the same thing anyways, to where making more money than I've ever made doing basically what I was doing 20 years ago because of Pelican making that phone call. If he doesn't make that phone call, who knows what I'm doing? Do I stumble into that? Who knows? So it's just kind of weird how that kind of stuff works, and a lot of people think that's just going to be this drastic change, and once I turn 16 and get out of my mom's house or whatever, I'm going to do this. And it's just not how life happens. So
yeah, unless you reflect on it, you're not going to realize what you've done or looking back. So I'm a big goals guy. I'm a big, if you don't write it down, it's not going to happen. It's not going to come to fruition. We're getting to that, like I said, end of the year, right? You're 2023. They have people that have these vision boards. You kind of, you manifest what you want, and it'll come to pass. And
I heard another phrase about how things will come to pass.
My grandma, that's what we're going to get to it on that. My grandma, I loved her to death. Now you looking back, you recognize things a lot differently when you're, in your 40s versus when you're, 12, 16, 18 years old. My grandma loved coming down to Nevada, where we lived down in Pahrump, and she would. She'd always want to go to the casinos, and Grandma had an itch. And she'd come to the casinos. My grandpa didn't want to go, so he'd usually stay and watch his kids, and my mom and dad and grandma would go. But she'd always take either the dollar or the quarter, and she'd say, if you rub it on your ass, it'll come to pass. And Grandma loved playing the slot machines. And I remember she'd come home, and I still have the little coin bucket, because back then it wasn't digital, it was real money. She'd bring home this bucket, the mini buckets full of nickels. And as kids, we'd take them all and count them up. And I mean, now you wouldn't be caught dead because you get all the germs from the nickels. But
well, we know where Grandma was rubbing those nickels.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't know, if you put it on a board, it'll come to pass. So that I made last year, we made a 2022 goal poster. We let the kids get on the interwebs and whatever pictures they wanted, we would print them off and put them on a board. Because like I said, we talk about your phone, you can see a million phones, but you can't really see it. So we took this large poster board with things we wanted to do in 2022 and put it in the garage right when you opened up the doors. So it was right there, and you'd have to look at it every single day. And we're going to do that this next couple weeks. See how many of them we had come to fruition. We went to the Oregon coast. That was something we wanted to do. Wanted to go to Canada. That did not happen, but we've got our papers in process to get the passports. Wanted to finish the basement, and that didn't happen. But we wanted to get a little more prepared, a little more water storage, some food storage. We did make that happen. Kids are all playing instruments, and that came to happen. So what I'm saying, you got to put something down. Otherwise, time is going to just pass by.
Well, it's okay not to be 100%, right?
Yeah.
If you're setting goals and you're hitting 100%, you're probably not challenging yourself enough.
Exactly.
If you're not hitting any, you're probably challenging yourself too much.
Yeah.
So put something somewhere, make yourself strive, make yourself be accountable. It's the same where I want to come back to is with reselling. is, you have to kind of think this stuff through. Where do I want to go? I made a hard, conscious decision last year, and you go back and listen to it. I was going to go this year full into wrestling cards and graded cards, and I've done that. I'm getting them back. I'm trying to list them. Wasn't the most financial successful venture that I thought would be. No, but long term, I will sell them. I just sold another card at them just as we speak again, $60. Right? Doing the show just barely.
Jeez.
So I mean, I'm putting stuff in the pipeline to eventually get to the person that's going to buy it. But that was something that I set as a goal, and that's where I stuck to. But there's some people that come in and they just think, well, this year I'm going to make $100,000, and I'm going to go source things, and I'm going to list them. I'm going to list 3 items a day, and I'm going to make $100,000. That's pretty vague, unless you say I'm going to go find, whatever, Louis Vuitton bags or whatever. I'm going to find 5 of them a month. I'm going to list 2 a week.
Yes, that's it.
And by that, they'll sell for $2,000 each, and that will give me $100,000 at the end of the year, or however it breaks down. If you're going to make goals like that, you kind of have to put steps on how you're going to achieve that, or else the time is just going to fly by, and it's going to be the next end of the year, and you're going to say, man, I was going to do all this stuff. I got a death pile, I got a bunch of crap, and I made $20,000, which is good, but it's $80,000 short of where I wanted to be, what happened. And that's where I think Adam's thing of writing it down or doing a board or however you want to do that. Where I work, we can be inspected by the FDA at any time. A moment's notice, the FDA can just come in and look at all of our records, all of our cleaning logs, all of our processes, go throughout the building, inspect it. And they have a phrase that's used a lot there, because people will say, there's certain tasks that we have to do throughout the day, and we have to make checks, and there has to be a hard copy.
Okay. And
somebody will say, well, I already did that. But if you didn't mark it down, if you didn't log it, if you didn't do it correctly, it doesn't matter if you already did it.
It didn't count.
If the FDA came in and was to inspect us, it doesn't matter if they see you sweeping the floor right in front of them. If you don't go and log it with the time and date and the proper steps, it doesn't matter. It doesn't count. It doesn't happen. I think that's a lot with reselling and that kind of thing. We might do or say we're going to do all this stuff unless you actually physically do it and log it, whether or not that's make your goals, write it down. Did it really happen, or is it just in your head? And there's nothing holding you accountable. If you're going to do your taxes with Adam and you say, yeah, I bought all this at a yard sale, I bought all this from the Goodwill, and I spent $70,000 on it. And Adam says, okay, cool, show me receipts, show me something. And like, well, no, I just know what I spent because it's in my head.
Yeah.
It doesn't count. You can't go to the FBI or the FBI. I'm on this FDA, or you can't go to the IRS and say, I promise I spent this. You have to have some sort of accounting, some sort of records. That's just the world that we're in. That's how we validate things, and the world that you're getting in as a reseller, not only on your financial records, but on your goals and stuff. Because, it's just easy to go down rabbit holes, and then you're at the bottom, and you don't even know how you got there, and where you were trying to go. And sometimes that leads you to find things that you would never source and sell. And sometimes you're just down there, and you're just like, I'm looking at Jigglypuff stuffed animals from McDonald's from the 1980s. I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. So that's, I don't know. I was just kind of the philosophical mind of just, this time is just a weird thing. And like you were saying with grandparents and parents, it's just weird when you're young. You look at them and they're like these superheroes, super beings. And then the older you get, you kind of start to see struggles or things that, they went through, limitations, problems that they have that you never even knew were there, and you kind of realize that they're just humans just like us. As a kid, your parents are just humans just trying to do the best they could as well, for the most part. Some people had really good parents. Some people had not so good parents. I don't know. I'm getting kind of deep here on different things.
You are.
But that's kind of where it comes full circle is, we're just out there trying to do the best we can. I think everybody in the resale game is just trying, for the most part, just trying to provide for a family and make a little extra cash to have a better life than maybe what they grew up with, or to be able to support people in a way they weren't able to be supported. And that's not anything to be ashamed of. I think if you came to the coffee table like we talked about last week, those are where the best stories come from. I was able to do this for my family, or I was able to do that for my family. Most of it came from reselling. Yeah.
Are we humans or are we dancers, Derek?
Who knows? That's a whole other show.
It's going back to, I was thinking about it. The question, I've heard brought up is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's how you do it. if you and I sat down and says, Derek, once a week when we do this show, we need to list 10 things. I mean, listing 10 things in a week that's not a big deal,
Pretty easy.
If that were the case, you and I would each have over 2,000 items listed on the internet. I mean, we've been doing this show for a long time. That's what happens is it's kind of like that procrastination thing as a kid. You're supposed to read so much or do so many things on a day-to-day basis. Unless you're doing it every single day or every single week, making yourself accountable, you can't make up that much in that little a time. I mean, in 4 years, same thing. If you and I said, hey, this is our goal is, I want to learn French, and you learn, 1, 2, 3 words a week, you'd have a full vocabulary by now.
I know how to say FBI in French.
You wouldn't know how to say FBI.
I'll be stuttering over it in English.
Parlez-vous français?
Bonjour.
Oh, see, look at that. We'd have a whole conversation in a different language if you take the time, because time's going to go by anyways. That's, we talk about it, and, it's kind of in a tongue-in-cheek, really the two things that are going to happen is you're going to have to pay your taxes and you will die. Like, it's just, Father Time is undefeated. It's just going to happen. And time is going to pass whether you want it to or whether you don't want it to. So you might as well make the most of it, D-Roy.
Yeah, what you do with that, and we're not guaranteed a certain amount. There's not an expiration date on us. There is, but we don't know where it's located. So I mean, some people get 30 years more than others. Some people get 10 years. I was reading. We went out to the Burger King. I know that's a place you love so much. There's a nice one over here down the road. Holly wanted to go somewhere special the other day, so I said, all right, we'll go to Burger King. And went over there, and they have a local paper that stills out. So while you're waiting for your food or whatever, I grab the paper, and I'm reading it. A young lady passed away. I think she was 17 years old. Kind of had an obituary in there. Got in a car wreck up in American Fork in the Canyon or some situation. And I mean, it was a big old long obituary about all the things that she'd accomplished and things. But next to her was a guy that was like in his 80s. It's just weird because this one girl had a whole life ahead of her, and there's a 60-year difference, and you never know. So make the most with the minutes you're given. I think that's a sports analogy of if you get in the game and you have a chance to play, which we're all doing right now. You got to maximize those minutes because you never know when your last play is going to be, Adam.
Yeah,
that same reselling. I mean, you maximize it.
If you're here, you've got a chance. If you didn't make it here, then you didn't get a chance. You're all in the game. It's like you said, it's make the most of it. Enjoy your time with your loved ones. I always see this thing. If you're blessed enough to be able to take your phone and call your mom and dad or even your grandparents, it's a good day. Whether you've had that relationship or not. Now I got to call my mom. You still have some things, and the older I get, like I said, the less of those opportunities that are happening. So, man, you took us down the deep dive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the end of the year reflection. I know a lot of us have. I mean, even this, you're doing your reselling and you're doing it to provide for your family. Let your kids be involved. Let your family be involved. Don't let the time that you're away, that you're trying to better them, be a thing where they think, man, mom or dad was always just trying to make eBay money. Like involve the kids. Adam's done a great job with that with his kids. Your parents, whatever. Just don't be afraid to reach out to people. You're driving around a lot. Make a phone call. 5-10 minutes might mean a whole lot more in 5-10 years.
And if you did that once a week for 4 years,
and do it in French. That's the thing. If you learn French, call up your parents and speak to them in French, and they'll just think, well, I got these weird kids, and there you go.
They do something fun. So, well, that being said, D-Roy, there are two things that in life are for certain, and that would be...
If I knew how to say this in French, I would say it right now. That would be great. Deathpiles and...
We're well within our rights to use this song. We're aware that preaching copyright is wrong. With lots of dedication, we've researched the legislation, and this music has nowhere